Do you want to improve the quality of your webcam when live streaming? You don't always need a more expensive camera. On this episode, you will learn how to use your smartphone as a webcam with Camo.
Yeah, did you know that instead of using expensive cameras such as mirrorless or DSLR cameras, you can also use your smartphone as a webcam when live streaming? This way, you can save all that money that you would have spent, and not to mention you probably spent a good amount on your iPhone or Android phone, and actually use the high quality camera that you already have to live stream. So this week we have a special guest, Aidan Fitzpatrick, who is the co-founder of Reincubate Camo, and he's going to discuss how you can use your smartphone as a webcam.
So I'm going to go ahead and bring on Aiden. This way you can. We're going to teach you how to use your smartphone as a webcam. And this is going to be really cool, Jim. I don't know if you've checked this out, but I've used it before,
I
and it's
have.
pretty amazing. Especially, I mean, I'm just amazed at just the quality that you get from your smartphone. So I'm going to go and bring on Aiden, and let's learn more about Aiden and how he got into live streaming. Aiden, thanks a lot for joining us.
No worries. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So I know you're the co-founder, right? So did I get it right, co-founder? Because you probably got a partner there that helps.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. There's
Yeah.
two of us, me and my partner Andrew, who set the business up about 10 years ago now.
Wow.
Fantastic. Yeah, 10 years. Wow. I gotta say, I mean, you're probably in the right place at the right time right now, obviously, with people wanting, to get into live streaming. In terms of your story, though, when did you first get into live streaming?
Well, fairly recently. So it's something I've had an interest in for a while, and I have a long list of things that I want to build and explore. And the idea behind Camo was one that I'd had sort of predating lockdown and the times of COVID. But it was actually really March last year that I started to get into it and explore the space in more detail.
Fantastic. So, Jim, do you have some questions for Aiden?
Yeah, Aiden. So why should someone actually use their smartphone over, we've got these amazing mirrorless and DSLR cameras, or even sometimes people want to use like their webcam. I guess I never thought, why should we use the smartphone?
That's a good question. So towards the start of last year, we sent the whole team home as COVID happened, and people needed to stay at home. And one of the things we found is it was very hard to see people clearly on the webcams they had. We had a lot of Apple, Windows computers, had a lot of webcams, but none of them really seemed to give very good quality. And I was quite frustrated by that. So I set out to find what the experts use. And I went and talked to some experts, and it seemed like the sort of the done thing was to get a DSLR camera, a professional camera, like a proper big unit. And they're generally a couple of $1,000. And I got to say, that frustrated me. I didn't want to have to outfit all of my colleagues with DSLRs, as very few of them had one. And I got to thinking about other approaches. And I remembered that a couple of people like Lady Gaga had fairly recently filmed her Stupid Love music video entirely using the iPhone 11. And so we started to experiment and try to see just what sort of image quality we could get. And the reality is these things are broadcast quality. A lot of that is down to Apple's investment in R&D. But some of it is down to sort of the structural economics of just what you can afford to put in a phone. So if you're going to sell a webcam for $300 to $400 and make profit on that, you can't afford to put a sensor in it that is good enough. And webcams they're just never really going to be broadcast quality or good enough for you to look the way you actually do, whereas your webcam can. So that was really sort of the start point for us, trying to come up with a product that would let you tap into that broadcast quality camera that you probably already have.
Fantastic. Yeah. I mean, this is, I will say this. I mean, I started out, when you mentioned that it costs a few $1,000s to get started. I mean, here's the thing: you buy, even if the camera is $500 to $600, you also want to have the right kind of lens to go with it. You've got to have really good lighting. In addition to that, and then in some cases, if you're using a mirrorless DSLR, you need a capture card. And a lot of these things aren't cheap. I mean, you're talking $600 for a camera, $400 for a lens minimum, and then you're talking a capture card, you're talking well over $1,000 right there at the start. And, chances are like we've already paid that $1,000 for that phone, which, to your point, does some really amazing things. I mean, I will say I love the advancements that iPhone, for example, and Android has taken, with, for example, a 3-camera system. Now I can have, the wide angle photo, for example, I get the standard lens as well as I think it's a macro lens on there, and it's fantastic being able to utilize those when I'm taking photos out and about of things. So now being able to bring that to my computer, for example, my live streaming setup is just, to me, it's fantastic to be able to do that. So, we basically briefly alluded to this at the beginning. You created Camo, but what were you doing before Camo? I guess since you said this has been like 10 years.
Yeah, sure. So we've we've shipped a bunch of products over the years. The big product that we've spent a lot of time on is iPhone Backup Extractor, and that's essentially a product that helps you recover lost or deleted data from iPhones. That's been very successful over the years. Still something that we're very actively working on. And yeah, it's done very well and has some good recognition. But we tend to experiment with building a couple of products each year. We do little skunkworks experiments. They don't always see the light of day. I've built many more things than I've launched, but Camo got launched.
Fantastic. And it's really cool, by the way, because I probably, by the way, have used your iPhone Backup Extractor software at some point, but what's really cool about, the fact that you've worked with building, for example, for iPhone at one point, now when you move into launching Camo, you already know for the most part how the Apple ecosystem works, what you can get access to, what you can't get access to, things like that. So I love the idea of testing things before you're planning to actually launch something, because, you never really know where, like, you could have shipped 10 products and, now you finally get to the point where I've got this one product that this one really, hits the mark, versus the other ones that, like, they work great, but like the timing, for example, like now it's live streaming. Everybody wants to use their smartphone as a webcam. So this is really cool. Jim, over to you.
Yeah. So, Aidan, what exactly is Reincubate Camo? Why did you create it? And what do you think is the problem that you've really helped solve for live streamers by creating it?
Well, I think the problem is helping them look like they really look, or helping them capture high fidelity video without having to go out and really buy anything. So at the moment, of course, your viewers will see us, but your listeners won't. But I'm on an 11 Pro Max, so not the latest phone. This one is a little way out of date, and I'm in a fairly well lit environment. What I can do now is I can swap between a couple of different webcams. So I'm on an iMac 5K. If I swap to its FaceTime camera now, you'll see I've got an exposure problem behind me. My t-shirt is actually gray, but it appears to be black, and the warm kind of bricks behind me, which are a lovely golden yellow, are kind of flat. From this built-in, I can switch to, say, a C920. This is the most common webcam that people buy as a third-party one. It has terrible light handling. You'll see I'm looking very gray with this thing, very gray. And it's got a lot of the same problems. It's not, the C920 isn't really, or the C922 isn't really any different to a built-in. And then I've got what is considered to be the top end, which is a Brio 4K. And you can see it's quite a bit better, but it's missing out on the warmth. It's doing some stuff for it, smoothing my face. It's trying to flatter me, but I don't actually look how I really look. It's not kind of a true, bright, vibrant representation of who I am. So we essentially set out to solve that. Can you look like you really look? And Christian asked about some of the stuff we'd done before. I mean, one of our strengths is we're very good at building desktop products that integrate with mobile devices. And a big theory we had with Camo was, if you're going to use your iPhone as a webcam, you don't want to keep taking it down to fiddle with it. You want to mount it as a camera and forget about it. and be able to control your image through your computer, where you're hosting on StreamYard or where you're doing whatever you are with your online recording. So if I just share my screen, what I'll do is I'll share only very quickly the interface for Camo. And you can see here, this is the version on Mac. There's a similar version on Windows. It looks the same. But essentially what it's doing is it's giving me a real-time live preview of what my iPhone can see of me. You can connect multiple iPhones and switch between them. You'll see I can switch it into this sort of portrait mode. And what portrait mode does is it uses Apple's beautiful bokeh effect blur. So you'll see it's just kind of softened the background as if I was on a DSLR. And one of the things that surprised us in building Camo is we thought we were essentially replacing webcams, not DSLRs. But we've since found that a modern iPhone, like an 11 or a 12 Pro Max, will get you better video quality than a Sony a6000. And so it actually seems to be the case that the iPhone camera is better than a lower end DSLR. So if you're thinking of spending maybe $1,000 on a DSLR lens, it's probably not worth it. If you're going to spend $2,000 or $3,000, then a DSLR will probably bring you ahead. But actually, with this piece of software in the phone you already have, you're going to get a great image.
And Aidan, you can use the front or the back camera on the iPhone as well, right? With Camo, it's not just one or the other.
Absolutely. So I don't think you can see the menus come up on the screen share, but look, I can. If I switch to the selfie camera, which is on the other side of this phone, you'll see what's behind my desk, the bottom of a light. But I can also go back to the rear cameras, put it in ultra wide, so you can kind of capture a bigger scene. And as Christian said earlier, there is a telephoto, so you can get up quite close. But if I go back to wide, something that's quite powerful is this little zoom control down here. Because the viewport of the camera, has quite a bit of white wool around me, and my head's a little bit small for this shot. But I can just kind of zoom in and position that and get myself so that I'm kind of looking right where I need to be looking. And there's a couple of other things you can do, like you can layer on watermarks, so you can have your own branding. And there are a whole kind of series of adjustments you can apply to the video. I tend to use this one. This one's maybe a little bit extreme, but you can alter saturation and contrast with all of these controls on the right hand side. And one of the things we've been very careful to do is we do all of this processing on the phone. So if you've used stuff like background blurring on Zoom or other products like that, that's all done on your PC or Mac, and it makes it hot, it makes the fans turn on, it makes it slow down. And if you're doing a lot with video, that could be quite intense. But because Camo is able to process all of this on the phone before it sends it to your computer, all your computer needs to do is decode it. So it really kind of does a lot of that heavy lifting for you using the incredible computing power of the iOS device.
Now, Aidan, also real quick too, when you're using the phone then as the camera with Reincubate, do you recommend people go into airplane mode maybe to make sure that they don't have calls and things like that interfere?
Yeah, absolutely. So some people use their daily driver phones and they'll just get, say, like a $15 mount from Amazon. And I've got an example of, I have one of them just here. This is the sort of thing. It's just a little bendable arm. You can clip one end safely onto your desk or the back of your monitor, and then the other end will pinch to hold a phone or an iPad. So some people will permanently mount a phone there. You could get one with a cracked screen off eBay for not a lot of money. It's quite a cheap way to do it. And you can keep that one offline. Or you can use your daily driver. And if you use your daily driver, there's a really neat trick with Apple's shortcuts, where you can basically say when the Camo app is run, automatically activate Do Not Disturb and or airplane mode. So that just means you don't have to worry about doing that every time. You run it, it remembers it, sorts it all out for you. Nice. But it's a good point, because if a call comes in, that could be quite unhelpful otherwise.
So I have another question for you in terms of this as well. So people buy their smartphones, they buy maybe 128 gigs, 256 gigs of space. So we know that iPhones and iPads have so much power. And for example, you can render 4K video on an iPad, for example, or an iPhone, and it does it faster than most computers in this case. But my one question for you is, so how much storage do I need to have available on that phone if everything's going to be processed on that device? Like, do I need to have, 20% of my storage available? can I go right up to that, 128 gigs of max storage? Any recommendations there?
Yeah, so it's not storage heavy at all.
Okay.
Essentially, Camo can't hang on to the data. I mean, I suppose it goes without saying we don't do any kind of tracking or collection of data or anything like that. And we can't see what you're streaming, and we're not interested in that. But essentially, because Camo is super low latency, we have to be as fast or faster than a webcam. It means the phone doesn't have time to hang on to it. So there's no particular storage requirement on the phone other than being able to install the app. And the app is not a large app. So if you've got even like I think, what is a small one? The oldest device we support is the iPhone 5S, which is 7 or 8 years old. And I think they came in 16 gigs. That's not a problem to put it on one of them. I mean, it's the cameras on them aren't spectacular, but they're still better than most webcams. But I generally recommend a newer phone than that.
Very cool, man. This is pretty amazing, actually. I mean, I love how easy it is to be able to use your smartphone over, a webcam or a mirrorless DSLR. By the way, I want to do one thing. I want to bring it up on screen again, and I want to have you just flip through those different examples and just tell people what model you're using, because it's just amazing to see just the quality, the difference in quality here.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is so do you want me to compare between the different cameras? Is that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. Okie dokie. Well, so this is the 11 Pro Max that you're seeing now.
Okay.
This is the built-in camera. So this is an iPhone. This is an iMac. This is a 5 iMac. So what I'll do is I'll just hold my phone up in portrait mode so you can see what's in front of me. You probably can't see that very clearly, but essentially I've got a whole set of webcams mounted over my screen. So this FaceTime is very washed out. It's very low res. The golden bricks behind me are quite flat. There's an exposure problem on that light. The C920, this is, generally speaking, if you want to kind of get started streaming, people often say, oh, I'll pick up a C920. They don't cost a lot of money. But, I mean, it's just not up to it. And as I said, this is a well-lit scene. There's just, it's better than not being visible, but it's a C920 is probably not going to be better than whatever's built into your computer. Or if it is, then not by much. And then finally, this is a Brio 4K. There's always a black screen for a little while because the Brio is slow to warm up. And it's quite a lot better than the other two, but it's still got quite a long way to go, really. It hasn't really captured the bricks that well. The Brios have got this weird kind of skin smoothing thing built in them, which really doesn't help them. And then what I can do is I can drop back to Camo. I also, if I do a quick bit of plugging, why don't we make it one of those demos? I can swap to actually another device. I don't know if. I wonder if I'll be able to select it. No, I've just plugged in another webcam, but I don't think the browser can see it unless I restart the browser. So I won't show you that. I was going to show you the Razer Kiyo Pro, which is broadly equivalent to the 4K. I think it's the newest high-end webcam, and again, it can't touch on what the phones can do.
And I got to say this. I mean, I'm also just impressed by the fact that as you're switching between those cameras, the other thing I think people need to realize is the zooming effect that you've got going on there. For example, when you go to, the Logitech C920, like most people, they'll put the camera on their laptop, for example, and they're not positioned correctly. And so that's where like your software really makes it easy to frame the shot properly, as opposed to, I don't have a stand for my laptop, so I'm going to just put it here and I'm going to tilt the lid back, or, and that's going to give you unequal lighting. It's going to give you obviously a very awkward view. So I love just how that is built into the software. One other question I was thinking actually was, do people need to, do I hardwire my phone to my computer? Do I use it wirelessly? How does it work?
Yeah, it's a good question. So you connect your phone to your PC or your Mac, and you do it with the cable that the phone came with. So that's normally just a kind of a USB to Lightning cable. Some people have got newer laptops that have got USB-C, and then you could just use a regular USB-C to Lightning cable. The reason we do that, first of all, is because it's fast, but also because it helps keep your device charged. So we haven't really focused on running Camo over Wi-Fi. because we want it to be super fast, and we don't want a situation where your device could discharge if you find yourself on a long call. But yeah, you just plug it in and you're away.
Nice.
Fantastic. So what's the cost, by the way, of Camo, and where can people obviously go check it out?
So if you want to check it out, generally searching Camo is a good way to get it. You should find it on the App Store with a search for Camo, or even on Google. So essentially, you can get it in a bunch of different ways. So the core of the product is free. And if you have the free version, what it will do is it will let you stream in 720p. And 720p is technically high def. It's not as good as 1080p, but it kind of depends on the platforms you're using. So a lot of people get quite caught up about having 4K or 1080. The reality is, if you have a bad camera that can't handle light properly, like the built-in or like the C920 or the Brio 4K, it's pointless being in 4K. You don't want to be high resolution with a bad image. It's not going to help you. And if you have a great camera with a great sensor, then being even in 480p or 720 is going to be a lot better than, say, 4K with something else. So yeah, with a free version, you get 720p. There is a watermark by default, a little camo thing in the bottom of the screen, which you can see just down there. But even with a free version, you can turn that off. Now, if you pay, you can use whatever device on the lens you want. You can have a custom watermark. You can go to 1080p. You can use this framing feature. And essentially, we sell Camo at a couple of different price points, depending on the plan you want. So you can pay $4.99 bucks a month, or you can pay 40 bucks a year, or it can be bought outright for 80 bucks. So if you're happy with a subscription, you can pay annually or monthly, essentially $5 or 40 bucks, or for 80 bucks, you can have Camo forever. And we do ship updates pretty regularly, and we do have quite a lot of stuff coming.
Nice.
Awesome. Yeah. And it also works on Android, right? So you've got an iPhone, an iOS version. You've got, I think, an Android beta, right?
Yeah, that's right. So the Android is in beta. We've got a big sign-up list for that. We've got quite a lot of users using it, but we kind of invite more users onto that beta every now and then. So it's not immediate access just yet. And then Windows is available immediately. Windows, macOS, and iOS are all available right now.
Fantastic. So I just want to thank you, by the way, for joining Gemini, because this is just, I love the software. I'm just amazed when you're flipping through the different cameras. We know that people use the C920 a lot. People have then bumped up to their Sony products, their Canon M50s, and I'm amazed at how much you can get out of a smartphone instead of, having to go spend all this additional money. I mean, you could reinvest that equipment budget into audio or lighting or things like that, because chances are you got that smartphone, and chances are you already are upgrading your smartphone a lot regularly than you are a DSLR camera or webcam.
Right.
So thanks so much for joining us. So one last question for you. I know people can go to reincubate.camo, reincubate.camo. Sorry, let's do that again. Reincubate.com/camo. Where can they connect with you, Aidan Fitzpatrick?
Yeah, well, absolutely. The best way to find me is probably Twitter. And my Twitter handle is AFIT. My name's Aidan Fitzpatrick, so AFIT. That's the best way to grab me.
Awesome.
Fantastic. So that's going to do it for episode 58 of the Launch Your Live podcast, where we discussed how to use your smartphone as a webcam using Reincubate Camo with Aidan Fitzpatrick. Remember, if you need help with live streaming, you can always reach Gemini at Launch Your Live on your favorite social media platforms. You could send us, for example, a message on Facebook if you want to just chat, or you need a consultation. But for more information on Launch Your Live episode 58, go to launchyour.live/EP58. We'll see you all on a future episode. Thanks a lot, everyone. Bye.